Guitar virtuoso. That might spark a number of names for many people, but for me, that phrase is synonymous with one man, John Goldie. Now, John is a phenomenal Scottish guitarist who has shared the stage with the best players in the world like Tommy Emmanuel and many others, but it's hard to put into words the effect it has when you see John play live. Now, I'm lucky enough to call John a good friend, and I can tell you that every single time I hear him play, my jaw hits the floor. And I wish that everyone could experience John's magic, which is why he'll be one of our guest teachers in a retreat in Scotland next year. But for now, it is my ultimate pleasure to introduce you to the man himself, the legend, John Goldie.
Hi, my name's John Goldie. I'm a guitar player from Scotland. Just like to tell you a little bit about myself, my story. I started playing guitar about 6 years old. I'm not from a musical family, so it was a bit of a shock to my parents, but basically, apparently I asked them for a guitar when I was a kid, so my parents got me a guitar from the local shop which sold washing machines and cookers and a couple of guitars. So you can imagine probably not the best quality guitar, but I loved it. It had a very high action, so the strings were way up here, so it was very difficult to play. And I just taught myself chords. I learned by ear, pretty much. I was really into status quo when I was a kid, so I just wanted to basically play like quo. So that was my kind of focus. I learned some basic chords, and then as soon as I'd got the chords together, I started wanting to play like sort of rock and roll stuff. So I did that for quite a while, and I didn't have an electric guitar, so I had this old acoustic guitar, and friends of mine had an electric guitar and amplifiers and stuff, so I always used to go to their house and play their stuff. So I really wanted to get an electric guitar and an amp. So what I did was I saw an advert in a music shop that said they were looking for a guitar player for a function band that would play like dances, weddings, etc. And saw the sign. I thought, right, I phoned it up, and I thought I need to make some money. So part of the advert it said, oh, I can't remember, like function band, guitar player required, great money. So that was me. I was on the phone immediately. But I was only about 13 at the time. So I got through to the guy, and the band were all guys in their 30s. So I turned up for an audition, and I told them that my electric guitar and my amplifier were getting repaired. It turns out I didn't actually have an electric guitar and amplifier, so I borrowed one off the bass player actually, who also played guitar. Passed the audition. Obviously they'd sussed out I was just some daft kid, sort of chancing my arm really. And then I, from there on, saved up money, bought some guitars, amplifiers, and just continued playing basically. Playing in function bands and clubs and weddings and stuff is a really great place to learn, because you have to play a lot of different styles of music. So like you have to play a foxtrot like a foxtrot, you have to know what that is, you have to know the tempo, etc, etc. So it was really useful, came in useful later in life. So that was the first part of what I did. I did that for quite a while, really enjoyed it. And then from there, I sort of went into a sort of different level of professional playing, which involved touring with American artists that came over from the States. And they had, they brought some of the band from the States, and then they picked up a guitar player and a drummer from the UK. And just by luck, I think more than anything else, I got that gig. One thing I should sort of point out is in that sort of journey, I also learned how to read and write music. So I'm self-taught, as I said, but it used to really bug me a little bit that I couldn't read music. I couldn't read anything at all. I couldn't read like a nursery rhyme in music. That used to irritate me a bit. So what I did was tried some guitar lessons, and you'll probably know this yourself if you've tried it. It doesn't always work out. So I went to a few teachers, didn't work. I gave up. I thought maybe it's not for me. And then eventually I was very fortunate. I found a guy who was just a great teacher, and he was an old, basically a rhythm guitar player. So he didn't play a lead or anything. So when I went to see him, I was, playing all my stuff, and he said, I can't help you, I don't do that. I said, well, I want to learn how to read music. And he just smiled and went, great. Because I could read music, I ended up doing session work and also doing theatre work, so I met a whole different bunch of people. So I've probably played on, well, easily over 100 albums, probably. I can't remember how many exactly. But just turning up and reading the part or reading a chord chart or whatever. And in the midst of that, I met sort of really good players who then organised like West End tours and stuff like that. So one of the guys was the guy who worked, at that time he worked for Andrew Lloyd Webber, and they were looking for a guitar for Jesus Christ Superstar, the show, which is a great rock guitar thing. There's two guitars, two guitar chairs on it. And the guy phoned me up and said, do you want to do it? And I'd never been to London as a player, particularly. I'd played some gigs in London, but I'd never been in that sort of scene. And it was really nerve-wracking just going to London and right in at the deep end with the Lloyd Webber team and all that kind of thing. And it was great. I mean, really good. It was the first week, it was pretty much terrifying because you're having to read music and you're surrounded by all these like London players that have been doing it for years, and I hadn't really done that sort of thing before. But I think once you get in the door with that, then you become part of that thing. So I did that for a couple of years, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really for me. I didn't really want to be a theatre player. I wanted to sort of do my own thing, I suppose. And then when I was touring, doing this, I was on tour for maybe over a year. I had a lot of downtime. So I actually bought a good acoustic guitar and sat down and literally just started writing music. My approach to fingerstyle guitar is quite unusual because I come originally from an electric guitar background. So my background is more in blues than it is in like folk or traditional music. So when I'm writing something that sounds like folk or traditional music, it's definitely my take on it. So it's not from that background. So I mean, I did festivals where I met Bert Jansch and John Renborn and loads of these great folk players, but I don't know that history of music. So when I'm working something out, I tend to think about what it is I need to do, if you know what I mean. So basically, if I've got, if we took something like simple like a blues and a kind of E blues, if you think about how to play that, so if you've got a constant bass line, for example, that's your beat. So that goes all the way through it. When you play anything else against it, that's when you need to sort of work on a different technique to be able to do that. So if you're doing... So if you do something like that, basically you need to be as comfortable with your thumb doing the bass part as the fingers doing the other part. So I've spent quite a bit of time on being as comfortable as I can be. So some of the more complicated stuff I'm doing has maybe 3 different things going on, or in some cases even nearly 4 things going on at the same time. And that's okay if it works, but to be honest, it's pointless if it doesn't sound good. So the main thing is it's got to sound good. So something as simple as, or seemingly as simple as that. So you can play anything, so you could improvise. You can change. So basically the point in this is that you're maintaining like a solid bass all the time. And it works in loads of tunes. There's lots and lots of different tunes that I've done where you're basically concentrating on that. But you need to be really free to play the top part of it. So even if you want to start to get into this, and you just do something really simple like that, and you can play on the beat. And then if you can do that, then you change the rhythm of the chord bit. You can just mess about with it. Every time you do that, there's a different problem you need to solve, if you like. Because, again, when I heard people doing this at the start, I sort of thought it was simple. You know, I really thought it was very simple until you try and do it. What I did realise was you really need to be able to do it right. You can't sort of fake it. It just doesn't work. So anything that you do that has that type of thing in it, and also if you're just improvising a lead part on it, you've still got this going. So if you were just playing lead, if somebody was playing the rhythm and you were just... You can do all that stuff, which is great. But when you're playing the bass part as well, that's a lot harder to do. If you try and do it, you know, it's going to be all over the shop, really. So it's sort of simplifying it, what you're playing, but then being able to play it sort of positively. So that would be one element that you could do. Another element is you could break things down into 3 parts. So a little bit like the kind of Chet Atkins type thing where you've got... So you've got 2 parts that do the same thing all the time, and then you'll have another part come in that's syncopated. That type of thing. What you can do is, rather than just go straight for that, is maybe start with a really simple exercise where you just play 2 chords. So if I play like D minor 7, G7, and I'm going to put the full chord on, but I'm going to just play the 1 bass note just now. So I'm going to play that note there, that's D, and then G. So I'm playing the 2 root notes. Okay, and that's going to be on 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's very simple. But you don't do that, keep the chord on. Right, so you're also going to play the chord. So the chord I'm just catching with my first and second fingers in the middle 2 strings. So I'm going to go, so that's on 2 and 4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So that's not too tricky. And then there's a melody part. So the melody part isn't straight, the melody part's syncopated. So it'll go... So that would sound a bit like this. So the tricky part with that is that you're doing all 3 things at the same time. So it's... does look quite simple, that, I have to say. As I thought when I first seen that. Wrongly, of course. Okay, so if you want to find out more about my music, I've got a website, I've got a YouTube channel, I'm on the usual socials, and just relaunched my newsletter. So if you're interested in that, you can subscribe in the usual kind of ways. The newsletter thing we've totally revamped and working it so that it's just got a lot of content in it. So it'll have, up and coming tours, dates, workshops, obviously, and little educational clips in it as well. So like a section on just like tips and stuff like that, and photos from on the road and all the usual sort of stuff.